Rob Dauster here. I got Jeff Goodman with me.
Hell no.
John Fink.
Are we still live?
Field of 68 till I die.
I'm sorry, man. I blacked out.
Randolph Childress.
DJ Khaled, you know the big DJ Khaled guy?
Hands thrown up and in.
Goodman needs to be fired all the time.
Josh Tasker.
You're going to beat people straight up.
You know the deal.
They have no swag. They have no nothing.
Terrell McNeil.
From the bluest of the blue bloods to the smallest of the mid-majors.
This is Field of 68 after dark.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Thursday evening edition of the Field of 68 After Dark. My name is Rob Dauster. I have Matt McCall with me. I have Randolph Childress with me. And I have a very special guest with me. It's Jamal Shead, the point guard of the Houston Cougars. And Jamal, I'm going to break some news to you here right now. We are unveiling our first team All-American on Monday morning. No one is supposed to know this, so you got to keep it a secret between all of us, right? It's going to leave this call. But you are going to be a Field of 68 first team All-American this season. First and foremost, man, where did this kind of year come from for you? Like, where did you feel like this was something in the offseason that you could put together?
I felt like the work I put in, God just had a plan for me, and so this wasn't just, I don't know how to say it. It wasn't just spontaneous, if you will, but I feel like I worked for it. I feel like I earned it a little bit.
Jamal, I gotta ask you, man. I as hard as you guys play, and no one plays harder than Houston. I heard you suck at running a mile, man. How is that possible? What's going on with your mile time?
Hey, so
What's going on?
long distance is just not for me. Like anything that is continuous, it just like Josh Carlton, our big my sophomore year. We caught him the 18-wheeler during the mile. He dusted all the guards. He ran like a 5:23 mile.
So what's your mile time?
Best I got for you 5:45, 5:40.
Still pretty good.
That's best I got
That's
for you.
still pretty good. Dauster, can you run a 5:45 right now?
Not right now. And when I was in the best shape of my life, I definitely could not do it either then. So like we're acting like this is a horrible mile time. Come on, man. Like that's pretty good.
Yeah,
it might not be up to Kelvin Sampson standards, but well, let's just say that Kelvin Sampson standards might be a little bit too high. You're a first team All-American running a 5:40 mile. I'm going to tell him to cut you a little bit of slack here.
Jamal, I want to ask you a question, man. And I want to ask you a question just in terms of your career. And the transfer portal is something that just has become the norm. And that's not the norm for you. And you have stayed at Houston. You are a first-team All-American. That's coming out here, I'm sure, in a couple weeks, possibly Big 12 Player of the Year. What is it about Coach Sampson in Houston that, hey, this is where I wanted to be, this is what I wanted to do, and I wanted to build something special here?
From day one, I always thought that coaching staff and those players that were there my freshman year were always so connected and like really a family. Being around Coach really did give fatherly vibes, and he was tough on me, but he always showed that he loved me. And then Coach Q and Coach Kellen was probably one of the first people to recruit me. So we had a really long relationship, still going to this day, probably 7 years strong now, I think. And it's been so much family, and you don't just leave family. You wait it out, you trust the process, and I'm so glad I did.
Jamal, you mentioned family, and I feel like that comes through when we watch Houston play in the style that you guys play, because there's not a lot of egos on that team, right? I don't think many people on your roster in your locker room care all that much about the shots they get, care all that much about how many points they score. You guys care about winning first and foremost, and I feel like that comes through. Was that something that developed in you? Was that something that you always had? Is that something that Coach Sampson prioritizes? Like, where does that come from in the Houston basketball program?
I think it's just a testament to the guys that we have around each other. We all root for each other, even if it's not our time yet or it's not our turn yet. We all root for each other because we're winning. That's another part of it. It's easy to root for the next person and be positive when you're winning, so that helps a lot. But those guys are really like my brothers, and every year that I've been here, I've had a great group of people around me. So it makes it so much easier.
Did you guys have a lot of noise coming in coming into the Big 12 about could it translate? Could you guys win in the Big 12? Was that something that you guys heard a lot of noise about coming into the season?
We saw a lot of stuff, we heard a lot of stuff, but we just didn't understand where it was coming from. We've been a winning program for a couple of years now, on the big stage when it mattered the most, playing against other conferences and whatnot in the March Madness tournament. So we heard it, we just didn't understand it. We put our head down and just got back to work.
Jamal, growing up, who was your guy? Who were you trying to model your game after? Who were you watching? Who's one of your idols?
I say it all the time. It's my older brother. That dude taught me everything I know about basketball, even if he didn't say a word. I watched everything he did, copied every movement I could possibly, and I was just the right-handed version of him. He's left-handed. So my older brother was literally my guide to basketball.
What was his mile time?
Ooh, he ran the mile too. Like he actually ran a 5:15 mile before.
What's Jeff Goodman's mile time? That's what we got to figure out. What's Jeff Goodman's?
About 2 hours. It's not good, Jamal. It's about 2 hours. He'll finish the lap in 5:45.
We need to get Jeff here to pick on him a little bit. Jamal, I got one last question for you from me. When you hear about all the noise about your team as well going into the tournament, what's different about this team? Because for me, it seems like this team you always been really good defensively, but you guys seem to be a little bit better offensively. Is that because of just the maturation of your team? Is it because Emmanuel stepped into that third scoring role? Like, what's different about this team as you guys head into the NCAA to give you the feeling like I believe you guys will end up in Phoenix and possibly win a natty? But what's different about this team we can look forward to in the tournament?
I think it's just a lot more trust. I've been there with a couple of these guys already, and then you got guys like LJ, who's already established. And then I've been there with Emmanuel. I've been there with J1. I've been there with JVA. Then you got a couple of young guys, a couple guys that have been there themselves, like Malik when he was at Texas Tech, and Damian has been a guy for his team at Temple. So I'm just more confident in this team, especially offensively, because I've seen them work out. They work out with me every day. They put in the work that I put in. So it's just a lot more trust, I think.
Did you say JVA? Is that how you pronounce it?
Javier.
I think every broadcast I've heard has been Javier. So that's a breaking news one for me. McCall, you got one more question?
Yeah, what's the scouting report on you, Jamal? Like, if we're scouting you and we're trying to guard you, what are we trying to like? How are we going to stop you? What's the plan? Do we blitz you and pick and roll? Do we trap you? What do we do?
Couldn't tell you. Certain stuff works on me until coach figures it out and helps me a little bit. People saw the Iowa State game and started to trap me a lot more after that. But then coach made a lot of adjustments in practice, and we started to break those traps and go score out of them. So stuff works on me, and just we'll see for how long until me and coach figure it out.
Who's been the best guard that you played against all year long? Who's been the best guard you played against this year?
I said Wade Taylor. He had 32 on us, and most of it was on me. He was making a lot of tough shots, getting to the rim. It was definitely a battle for me, and I'm glad we got the win. But he played really well, and he almost won the game for his team. So I'd definitely say Wade.
Last one I got for you, Jamal. The transition to the Big 12. What was the toughest part about this? Right, I think everybody knew how good Houston was. I don't know if we all necessarily expected you to put up the same record. Right, even Coach Sampson in the offseason told me for the Almanac that we're not going to be able to go 27-3 playing in the Big 12, and here you are, like one win away from going 28-3. So what has that transition to a different league been like?
I think the hardest part about the Big 12 was just the consistency of playing somebody good every single night. Like our first 3-game stretch, we went 1-2, and we played 2 road games at Iowa State, at TCU. Those are 2 really good teams, and they were, I think, 3 days apart. In the American, you get kind of a stretchier season. We had like 4 days in between some games. We didn't play a lot of back-to-back games. Like Saturday, Monday, Big Monday game was different to me. Your body has to get used to it. It's rough, And it's a lot of good teams, a lot of good players, and your body just has to adjust to it.
Well, listen,
I'm gonna put you on
Jamal,
the
I
spot.
appreciate you.
Are you the best point guard in the country?
Oh, I love it.
I'm the best point guard for my team right now. I
Don't
know.
be shy. Best
Oh,
point guard in
man,
the
look at
country.
that answer.
It's all right. You got my vote right now. I said it. You the best two-way point guard for sure. Don't worry about it. Don't be bashful right now. Just let them know.
I
appreciate that.
The humbleness. I love it.
Listen, Jamal.
He don't play humble. I ain't giving him that humble crap.
Exactly.
He don't play humble.
When he gets
Let him know, Jamal.
in front of his face,
Let him know, Jamal.
Listen, Jamal, appreciate you being here, man. It was fun to catch up. First team All-American on the field of 68. But again, don't tell anyone. That stays right here, right? That's only for the field of 68 to know, only for the show. Appreciate you being here, my man.
Much love.
Best of luck the rest
Much
of the season, and keep proving us wrong and making us look silly for doubting you guys. Congratulations. Have a great rest of the season.
Yes, sir. Good night, y'all.
That was Jamal Shead, first team All-American point guard on, according to the field of 68, best point guard in the country, best two-way point guard in the country. I don't even know if you need that qualifier anymore, Randolph. I think we could just say the best point guard in the country at this point. Like here's the stat for you that stands out for me more than anything else when it comes to Jamal Shead. There's two of them actually. 14-3 in the Big 12, all alone in first place. Fourth nationally in turnover rate offensively. Third nationally in turnover rate defensively. To me, those are the three things that let you know everything you need to know, RC, about a point guard and how well they play.
You won't get an argument from me. I just think that sometimes he doesn't get, because of the way Houston plays, it isn't pretty. So I just don't think people give him enough credit for that. And that's why I've always been kind of bullish on where I stood with him. And I was just, it was fun to have him on tonight. I'm glad we can get him.
Mm-hmm. McCall?
185 assists to 59 turnovers and averaging double figures. That's crazy. It's insane. 185 assists to 59 turnovers. That's nuts. And he impacts winning. His team's the number one team in the country. Rob, winning's hard. Winning's hard. And he impacts winning. When you got a guy like him, when you got a guy like him, winning becomes a little bit easier. But just the assist to turnover ratio, how he guards, his tenacity. I mean, if he's not Big 12 Player of the Year, then we need to revote. We need to recount. We gotta run that back, because I don't know how RC feels, but I'm always look. If there's a guy that's putting up just absolutely ridiculous numbers in the league and his team is having some success, then you got to give him Player of the Year. But I'm a fan of giving the most impressive player on the team that wins the league. Who impacts winning the most? That's who should win Player of the Year in that conference. I am such a fan of that. I've always voted for that when I was a head coach. Who is the most valuable player on the best team in the league? And that is Jamal Shead.
Can we talk about the chairs that McCall has behind him right now? Like, look, for the people listening on podcasts, from the people on Sirius XM right now, I'm looking at it right now for the first time in McCall's new setup, and he's got Final Four chairs. I believe the one on the right is signed by, is that the 2006 one signed by everybody on the team? Is that right?
To my left. It's to my left. That's it was everyone on the 06 team. So I had to adjust my setup a little bit. We have my parents in town, so I had to move and make a play late in the shot clock. So I'm actually in my garage, and my Final Four chairs are in my garage. That's where I'm at right now.
Hey man, it looks good. It's quite the flex. It's quite the flex. All right, last thing on Houston, and then before we got to get to a break, I want both you guys to weigh in on this. Where do you stand? I feel like we have this conversation all the time, and assuming that Javier, which is apparently the way that you pronounce his name, I've been pronouncing it wrong all season long. Javier, I apologize for that. But assuming he's able to get back healthy, what does Houston need to do, Matt, to be able to win 4 games in the NCAA tournament, get to a Final Four, to be able to win 6 games and win a national title? Because I feel like that's something that we have all collectively kind of said, yeah, they might be able to do it. I don't know if I fully trust them to be able to do it. Like, we've all had doubts at some level at some point about Houston. What's the key to them being able to get this done and win and cut down some nets?
Well, I think the biggest key when you get to March is being able to win games multiple ways. And they have the best defense in the country. and everyone's like, "Ah, man, can they score enough? What's wrong with their offense?" Well, they beat Oklahoma and they scored 87 points. So they proved they can score points. So I just think being able to win games in a variety of different ways. You can't just, when you get there, you have to be willing to adjust. However the game is going, man, you got to play that game. And if you got to throw a 2-3 zone out there or a 1-3-1 zone just to keep a team off balance and to have the guts to be able to do that, you've got to do it. If you got to score 87 points to win the game, whatever it takes to win in the NCAA tournament, that's what matters. You can't be just stuck in your ways. This is how we do things. You have to be willing to adjust.
Randolph?
I think it boils down to what you just, I mean, two different things. One you just alluded to. I think one is, will they adapt what they're doing defensively in a game? Like, I don't know if they're going to run zone. You know what I mean? And when you know a team is going to hedge, Matt, you know that you can kind of counter that. I think the other thing is that Jamal alluded to. What happens when someone says we're going to trap him and double him and not let him beat us? Can they survive with him not being a major factor in the game? Because if someone wants to take you out, they can take you out.
Listen, we got a lot more to get to tonight. I have a list of 4 questions that were put together by my producer, Dagan Hughes. I'm going to fire them at these guys, and we are going to answer them all for you. It's going to be fun. Coming up next. What's going on, guys? Before we get back to the show, I need to let you all know about the Field of 68 Daily, an all-encompassing college basketball newsletter that arrives in your inbox, you guessed it, daily. For less than $1 a week, you'll wake up every morning to more than 1,500 words detailing everything that you need to know to stay up to date on the world of college basketball. From the notable mid-major upsets to the stars that are out injured to the breakout performances that only our team of college basketball junkies watched. The Daily is edited and produced by Mike Miller, who spent more than 2 decades running NBC's digital written content, and is subscribed by more than half of the Division I coaching staffs, the biggest names in college basketball media, and the agents that work as power brokers in the sport. For just $50 for the year, you get access to the same information that the insiders get. And before we get you back to your regularly scheduled Field of 68 content, let me tell you guys about the Field of 68 merch store. Head over to fieldof68.shop for officially branded Field of 68 apparel. Whether you're supporting your favorite team in the student section or from the couch, there is no better way to gear up than the latest from the Field of 68. The best thing I can say about our merch is the quality of the product. Anyone that has ever worn a t-shirt knows how frustrating it is when the neck gets all stretched out and the bottom of the shirt starts looking like the bottom of bell-bottom jeans. And there's nothing worse than a hoodie that loses its snugness that makes it such a perfect way to stay warm during the cold winter weather. Whether you're shopping for yourself or for the college basketball fan in your life, everything you need is at the fieldof68.shop. Welcome back to the Thursday evening edition of the Field of 68 After Dark. Rob Dauster, Randolph Childress, Matt McCall. We are live on SiriusXM. We are live over on the Stadium app. Remember, make sure you go and download the Stadium app. Last Call will exclusively be on Stadium's app from now on, so make sure you download it and interact with us during Last Call. You can join the live chat. You can play interactive games. You can win some prizes. We want to hear from you. So make sure you go and you download the app, join the conversation, and enjoy Last Call. All you got to do, go and search Stadium in any place that you get apps for absolutely free. Gentlemen, we're going to be answering some questions here. I'm going to start with this one. Top 5 title contenders right now. That's what we have written down from Dagan. Here's what I'm going to flip this a little bit. I think that in this moment, as we sit here today, Tennessee is the second most likely team, if not the most likely team, to find a way to be able to win a national title this year. I think they are an elite defense. I think when you look at who they have at the point is Zakai Ziegler. They have a veteran senior point guard that has proven to be able to win games, that has been through some dogfights and that has been through some adversity and has put up huge numbers this year. He's won games for them all by himself. And they have the most lethal scorer in college basketball. All due respect to Zach Edey, I think he is the best player in college basketball, point blank, period. I think Dalton Knecht is the most lethal player in college basketball, meaning you give him the ball and you can go get you a bucket at any point that you need. Matt, am I crazy for saying that? I think UConn is the deserved favorite by BetMGM for their
do?
futures. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Well, look, they're 5-1 to win it all, man. It is what it is. Just
Are
because
you
I'm a
shocked?
UConn fan
Are you
doesn't mean I
shocked?
can ignore.
Are
Doesn't mean
you
I'm going to
shocked?
ignore the
Oh,
facts.
really? You picked
Okay.
UConn to win it all? No way.
Well, yeah. I'm definitely going to go back to back, right? They're gonna break your streak, McCall. They're gonna go ahead and break your streak, and I'm gonna get those 2 chairs behind me. No, I won't. I don't get chairs from the Final Four. No, but I think Tennessee, to me, is the second. I just the way that they're built. I think that you talk about winning games multiple ways. They can win games with their defense. They can win games with Dalton Connect. They just won at Alabama without Dalton Connect, and you look what they've done the last month and a half. They won at Kentucky. They won at Alabama. They won at South Carolina, and they smacked Auburn in their own building. They beat all of the other contenders in the SEC, 3 of them on the road. How can you argue against this team at this point? I don't think you can.
I don't think you can. I think when you look at Rick Barnes' teams, like that's the only holdup. And you could say the same thing about Matt Painter. And I'm so high on Purdue, and I am so impressed with how Fletcher Lawyer and Braden Smith have come back this year and the focus level, because those 2 guys took a lot of heat for their early exit last year. And I think when I look at Tennessee, it's just Rick Barnes' track record in the NCAA tournament. But his record overall, his teams at Texas, what he's done at Tennessee to turn them into an SEC powerhouse is so impressive. And Dalton Connect, you have to make the case that he's the best transfer in the country. What a job by their staff evaluating, bringing the right guy in, and credit the guys that are on the team like a Zakai Ziegler, who's coming off that injury, to welcome him in and understand, hey, this is the guy, and we have to set him up, and we've got to play off-ball screens, whatever it is, and find him and welcome him in. And they have just steamrolled through what you can make an argument is the second best league in the conference. So my only hesitation is just Coach Barnes' track record in the NCAA tournament. I think he's got an old school mentality. I think that sometimes that old school mentality, once you get to late March, middle of March, do you have the legs to be able to make a run in the tournament? But look, they're the 4. They're in the category of the top 4: Houston, Purdue, UConn, and Tennessee, and then Arizona would be the 15 for me.
Randolph?
I think the 2 teams it's funny we had Jamal on earlier. I think Houston and Tennessee are similar in that aspect. I think they're you can make an argument, debate it all you want. They're just 2 teams defensively that just seem to be better than everyone else, night in and night out, on a consistency level. The question we had on both teams if in the past has been on the offensive end. Can they score enough points? They've been identical in an aspect. This year, both teams have taken a notch. They seem to have an extra gear when needed. And that's what's scary about both of these teams is that they've always been elite defensively. But now they seem to have better scoring and better ability to adapt to how teams are guarding them to be able to score. And whether it's Connect or whether it's Shead, that they got player of the years in their conference that affect the offensive end of the floor. And I don't know how you go against either one of those teams right now because they're so elite and they have scoring. But I just think those 2 teams are just similar in how they approach the game and they go. And will they make an adjustment? Again, Matt mentioned that earlier when we were talking about it. It's will they adjust defensively because you kind of know what they're doing when they come at you. And when teams are able to scheme you, what adjustments will they make defensively just for the moment or a game? Are they willing to do that for that one particular game? I think they'll need to do that in order to win 6 to be a national champion, which I think these teams are good enough to do. They're in that group of probably 6 or 7 or 8 teams that I think have a legitimate shot at winning it.
Well, so I think there are 9 that I would put that the top tier to me is the top 4 that we all kind of know about, right? There's going to be the 4 number 1 seeds. I think that it's them and then everybody else. And in terms of the everybody else that I can see legitimately having a chance to win a national title, to win 6 straight games, it would be Houston, UConn, Purdue, Tennessee, obviously. I'd put Arizona in there. I would put North Carolina in there. I would put Creighton in there. I would put Duke in there. And I would put Kentucky in there. And I think it's going to be one of those 9 teams that can find a way to get it done. And I think the one The one where I saw you shake your head a little bit was Randolph was Kentucky. And all I would say is that when you look at some of these teams that are great offenses that can't really guard, right? I think Kentucky is the one that is the most consistently always going to be able to get you 85 to 90 points. And I think that there are nights where you need a Rob Dillingham explosion off the bench, a Reed Shepherd explosion off the bench, Antonio Reeves to go for 28, maybe Justin Edwards to go 10 for 10, 28. One of their big guys, like whoever it is. I just think that they have so many different weapons that they can throw at you. And you know that you're going to get at least one of those guys going nuts, which is why I would put Kentucky in that tier over some of those other ones. Is there anyone that you would take out, Randolph, out of those 9?
No, but Kentucky would be my 9th. I mean, I had the identical group of teams, but Kentucky would be my 9th only because their inconsistency on the defensive end of the floor. We've seen it all year long. Now, again, I don't think anybody is scary as Kentucky is on the offensive end. I think their ceiling on the offensive end is probably better than everyone else's because I just think when they get multiple guys going, I don't think anybody can stop them from scoring. But 6 games when you're not scoring, you got to rely on your defense to get you through sometimes, and that's the concern. So I would put them right there, and I'd say Duke is a team. I think they're better defensively than you think, but it's different than what we're accustomed to Duke being defensive. And I think it's hurt them because people question them like, they don't play hard, but they're more in gaps staying between the man and the ball because they don't have rim protection. So they can't get out and overplay because they don't have the Derek Lively on the back end to alter shots at the rim. But I think they're better defensively than people give them credit for. But I'd say Kentucky is a team that they're my 9th team because I've seen less consistency from them, even though I think they're the most probably scariest team on the offensive end of the floor or the most talented team offensively. Sure.
Yeah, I agree with RC. I think they're the most scary team on the offensive end of the floor. And we've seen Cal chuck in Big Z and try to get him some reps here late in the season. I've been saying it all year, who's going to step up in the front court? Like, who's going to give them minutes? We know what they're getting out of their backcourt. We know how good these guys are. I mean, Reed, Shepherd, and Dillingham are going to be most likely top 10 picks in the NBA draft. So they have the talent. I think out of all those teams you're talking about, for me, just because they've been there, it's Carolina. It's Carolina. It's R.J. Davis. It's Baycott. They've done it. They've played for a national championship just 2 years ago. Everyone was so hard on them last year. Hubert Davis, is he the guy? Should he be the coach in North Carolina? And they have the opportunity to get back there because of those guys. Because they've been hardened, they've been calloused, they've been through it. Like, they're the team for me out of all those teams outside of the 5 that I mentioned. And I think Arizona is the 5th team that I'm super high on. I think Carolina's in that next category. And we said this 2 nights ago on the field of 68, and they put us on the spot in terms of the Blue Bloods. You have the 4 Blue Bloods right now. Who do you think can make the deepest run in March? It was Duke, Carolina, Kentucky, and Kansas. And I actually took Kansas just because of Bill Self. And I think if they're healthy, they have arguably the most talented starting 5 in all of college basketball. You can make a case for that. Nick Timberlake showed up the other night. He was the most sought-after transfer in college basketball. If they can get 8 to 10 points out of him come, NCAA tournament time, but they got to get healthy. That's the biggest thing. And can they make perimeter jump shots? Can Furphy play well? When he plays well, they win. But I think Kentucky is the most dangerous team because I think they have the highest ceiling. It's just who's going to really, really step up in the front court for them and give them quality minutes around those guards.
Yeah, all right. Rob, I'm gonna state. Go ahead, Randolph.
No. I was going to say, of all the teams that we named, one that earlier in the year I never thought would be here was Creighton. But I agree that they are here. I didn't believe Creighton was. I used to say, they play against an athletic team. I think they'll struggle. But no, they're legit. They are a legitimate national championship contender team, and I must admit I was wrong about them. And I'm a little stubborn, I'd say. I didn't doubt them. I just didn't. I had my concerns early, and they definitely proved me wrong.
They are so good at doing what they have to do to be able to win. They're the best team in the country at running people off of the 3-point line.
Yes.
Right? They do not let you shoot threes. They do not foul. They make you do everything in the mid-range, and they understand that if we just kind of funnel everybody into Ryan Kalkbrenner and make them try to finish over the 7'2" dude that's going to win 3 straight Big East Defensive Player of the Year awards. That's how you win it. I also think that Arizona is someone that's being slept. Like, they're good enough to be a 1 seed. They're talented enough to be a 1 seed. And when Kylan Boswell is playing the way that he's played the last 3 games, it completely changes who they are. Caleb Love for me is a borderline first team All-American. I'd probably have him second, but I feel like we're kind of underrating them a little bit at this point. Listen, when we get back, we're going to be talking about sleepers a little bit. Who are teams that are projected in that 6 to 11 seed range that can make a Final Four, and who can pull a Shabazz? That's next. Ooh. The best month of the year is here, which is why you need to know that we are now partnered with BetMGM. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 throughout the conference and NCAA tournament. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can use the bonus code FIELD150, and you'll get $150 in free bets on your first wager with BetMGM, regardless of whether or not that bet hits. Here's how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD150. Deposit at least $5 and place your first wager on any game, and you get $150 in free bets regardless of the outcome. Just make sure you use that bonus code FIELD150 when you sign up. And most importantly, we have some fun stuff coming up for the conference tournaments and for the NCAA tournament. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odds boosts, and what I love the most, a nice little parlay boost, as well as a ridiculous array of prop bets for anything that you could possibly imagine betting on in March and in early April. BetMGM is the king of the prop bet. So go download the BetMGM app, use Field150 as the code, and sign up today. And while I've got you here, a quick request. The best way to support the Field of 68 content that you get here for absolutely free is to engage with it. Rate and review the podcast. Like and share YouTube videos. Tell your friends about us. It all helps in a world where the algorithm is king. And now, back to our show. Welcome back to the Thursday evening edition of the Field of 68 After Dark, where we are going to be talking about teams that can make runs in the NCAA tournament here this season. Rob Dauster, Randolph Childress, Matt McCall, complete with his 2 national title chairs behind him. What a flex. What a subtle, not really all that subtle of a flex.
It's not really a flex, though. I'm in the garage. Dauster. I'm sitting in the garage right now. Not a flex.
You know what the best part about being in the garage is, McCall? Garage beers. So yeah, garage beers. You can drink as many garage beers as you want to right now. Listen, speaking of garage beers, let's talk about teams in the 6 to 11 seed. I don't know what that segue was, but we'll just go with it. Teams that are projected by the Fielding the 68 bracket to be in that 6 to 11 seed range that you think can make a deep March run. And by deep March run, I'm defining that as getting to the Elite 8 or further. McCall, we'll go to you first in this one. Who you got? Who you like?
I'm going Gonzaga. This guy never doesn't make the second weekend of the NCAA tournament. He never does. And everyone has been counting out the Zags all year. And all he did was go on the road the other night and punch his ticket to the NCAA tournament and Mark Few. Like, if they're like a 7 seed or an 8 seed and you're lined up to play them and you get them in your bracket, you're sitting there going, whew, man. All Mark Few does is make the second weekend of the tournament. Go back, look at his Wikipedia page. It doesn't matter. I'm taking the Zags. I just based on history. I think they have a talented roster. I know it hasn't been. Drew Timmy's not there anymore. I know it's not as good as it's been in year past. But I'm betting on Mark Few to get to the second weekend. So I think that's a team. And I think when you get lined up to play them in this NCAA tournament, that opposing team is going to be concerned.
I'm just throwing this out there. Right now, Arizona is projected as a 2 seed. Gonzaga is projected as a 7 seed. And if they happened to be put in the same pod, fellas, I would not be complaining about that one bit. Get a little Tommy Lloyd, Mark Few revenge matchup. We'll see. Randolph, who you like?
I'm going to go with a team that did it a year ago that's kind of been up and down all year, and people are not talking about much. I think it's Florida Atlantic. The pieces are there. I've been a big fan of theirs all year long. I just think this now that we're here, Let's see if this group can finally hit the switch in the wall. They're not sneaking up on anybody we know, but we obviously know there's a deep run there. These guys have been there, and the experience will matter. They got their guard play. They obviously got Big Flag Golden inside. I think this team can make an Elite Eight and potentially make a Final Four if they're making shots. We've seen it.
All right, fellas, I got 2 for you here. All right, the first one
You're only allowed to pick one. How are you going to take 2?
Yeah, you know.
Like, what are you doing?
It's my show. I can do whatever I want. It's my show, McCall. I can do whatever I want. Listen, the first one is going to make you very, very happy. It's going to make me very popular in the McCall household. That's Florida. I feel like we are really underrating what Florida. Yeah, there you go, Gator Chomp. I feel like we're really underrating what Florida is right now because they've blown a couple second half leads here, right? If they don't blow, I think it was a 10-point lead at South Carolina. They blew a 10-point lead at Alabama, and they blew a 12-point lead earlier on the season as well. I think it was at Texas A&M, right? All in the second half. They hold on to win those games. They're right there for the SEC regular season title. And obviously that's not really how these things work, but they're not that far away from having put together a resume that is putting them in the conversation as like a top 4 seed. They have the same kind of offensive. Go ahead.
You said if they hadn't done all that, if these strands of hair on my chin was all black, I'd look like I'm 20 years old. If was fifths, we'd be fucked up. I mean, Rob, stop it, man. If they had lost, man, cut it out. They did. So we got to go off what they've done. Don't give me this. You name like 10 things. If the sun hadn't risen over coming here and it hadn't dropped, like, are you serious? If you're gonna put it on there, Rob, stick to it, man. Don't give me that. Oh, they.
No, I am. I'm all in. I'm all in. I think Florida is really, really good and really dangerous. And I think if you look at their numbers and what they've done this year, they're not that far off from being a team that we will be having a lot of different conversations about. Right? Elite offensively. I love Walter Clayton. And just for the record, RC, if you just shaved off the beard, you would still look as old, man. You got the baldy going on up top. That's your biggest problem right now. That's the dead giveaway. That's the dead giveaway.
I think the thing with Florida too is like we're talking about seven and above. Florida's going to be seated higher than that. So that's not okay. What's your second one? Because you have 2 teams. You have two teams. Go ahead. What was the second
one? The second one was Dayton. I think that coming out of the A-10. You have a guy that's going to be an All-American in Deron Holmes. You have a coach that understands how to cater what he does to the pieces that he has. I think that they've been able to overcome the loss of Malachi Smith really, really well. Matt, I know you watch a lot of Dayton. Am I going out on a limb here? I think that what they can do defensively, the way that they can shoot the ball, and the fact that they have an All-American at the 5 that they play around and know how to play around, I really like that team. I think they're dangerous.
I think they're dangerous. I think Deron Holmes at point forward, playing him at the 5 spot, using him the way that Anthony does. But we got to start talking about Richmond too, because I know Richmond's not in the field right now, but they won the regular season in the A-10. Chris Mooney, they put a billboard up in Richmond that said, "Fire Chris Mooney." Whoever put that billboard up there, like, can somebody find him? Find that guy. I want to see where he's at right now. Because I
want to put a billboard up that says regular season champs, Richmond Spiders.
All he does is win games. He's 3rd all time in the A-10 in wins. 3rd all time. And
they've had that man fired so many times, Matt. He's been fired so many times.
RC.
And he just comes back and figures it out. He just comes back and wins. Yeah.
Jordan King, the transfer from ETSU, if you have not watched him play, turn on the TV when Richmond's playing. I think Dayton's really good. Anthony Grant has done an unbelievable job with that team this year. NCAA tournament team. I think they can make a run. Richmond is the other team. And look, Drew Valentine, last place last year in the A-10. Last place to a double bye in the A-10 tournament. They were right there to win it all. Come on, man. Like, I mean, those 3 teams are really good. He's done a heck of a job. That is impressive.
Hey, Matt,
in any other year, I think you can make an
trying to look at Rob's cup. I'm trying to look at Rob's screen and see what's in his cup, man. What's going on over there, man? That ain't beer. I don't know what he's drinking, but we got to sub it out.
It's a little
It's
double
definitely not
IPA.
Coors
So
Light. I can
you
tell
know what
you
it
that.
is? It's the second one of these I've had, which is why I can sit here and say, if Florida did that, if Florida did this, because if ifs were
Yeah.
fifths,
It's like
we'd all be drunk, right, Randolph? All right. All right. The next thing I want to get you guys on is I mentioned like guys that could be Shabazz Napier. I don't want to say someone that can lead like a 7 seed to a national title because that's literally happened once ever, right? But someone that you think can be a star that gets a team that doesn't deserve or doesn't belong in the Elite Eight to the Elite Eight or to the Final Four. Like, who's going to be the March darling? Who's going to be the guy that we look up heading into the Elite Eight and he's averaging like 33 points a game and his team is somehow find a way to make a run there? Randolph, I'll go with you.
Boo Booey.
That was mine. That's a good one. Yeah.
I just think he's a guy that can put a team on his back and carry him home. And he's always been on my all-name team, but he's got the game to back it up. Barry going down was big for those guys. I think he's a guy that can put a couple of games together. I don't know if he can, I won't go as far. It'd be difficult to say or really feel strongly that he can put enough games to take him to Phoenix, but he's that good that you don't want to play him because he's capable of putting that team on his back and at least getting him through the Sweet 16.
McCall?
I'm going Nelly Davis. I thought the performance that he had last night against North Texas was absolutely outstanding. He took that game over. He's shooting 45% on the year from three. Elijah Martin has been up and down for FAU, but we know when both those guys are clicking this year, they can make a run. RC just alluded to it, but I just think Nelly Davis can take a game over. He can take a tournament over. That's how talented he is. So he's my pick. Getting 19 a game, and last night, like that was a big game for FAU to go on the road against a tough North Texas team, and Nelly Davis took that game over. So he's the guy that, to me, when they get to the tournament, he can will them to wins.
Yeah. Nelly Davis was going to be the guy that I said if Randolph did not pick FAU for the 6 to 11 seed to make a run.
So we both took his answer down.
Yeah. Boo Booey was going to be the guy that I was going to say before you said all this. So I'm going to have to go to number 3 on my list. And you guys tell me if this is crazy. You guys tell me if I'm out of my mind here. But Tyson Walker. All right. And hear me out. Tom Izzo knows how to find a way to win in March, right? We've seen him make runs with teams that were, I think he took a 7 seed to the Final Four in 2015. We've seen him get 8 seeds to the second weekend. He knows how to find a way to be able to win in March. He knows how to put together a game plan. Tyson Walker, when he gets going, is as good of a shot maker as you're going to find in college basketball. He can create on his own. He can hit the step backs. Like he's kind of at his best when he doesn't have to worry about getting the ball to anybody else. And you just say, Tyson, cook. Tyson, we need 25 this half to be able to win. Go get it for us, right? And if he can find a way to be able to do that for a couple straight games in the NCAA tournament, and Malik Hall keeps playing the way that he's played of late, and maybe Xavier Booker shows up for the way that he showed up in the first half at Purdue the other night, I think that Michigan State is a team that can find a way to make a run here. Am I crazy, Matt? Am I just sitting here like remembering the olden days of Tom Izzo?
I only got one question to ask you about that. Is Michigan State in the tournament? I didn't. No, I'm kidding, guys. Everybody relax, Michigan State fans. Relax. No, you're
26 straight. 26 straight, RC. 26 straight.
I didn't go to you for a reason, Randolph. We don't need you talking about Michigan State.
NCAA. I didn't know which one you said. NIT, NCAA. I wasn't sure.
Oh, they're a lock for the NIT Final Four. Can you imagine Breslin in the first round of the NIT? How loud that building will be? Oh, they're a lock for the NIT Final Four.
Yeah, right.
Am I crazy though? Come on, like it.
No. He's a bucket.
No, you're not
joking about it. He's a flat bucket, man, and he's done it for that team all year. We've seen it. Without him, I don't think that team wins many games. They relied on him having to carry them, and there's no question they're going to defend their ass off. And if you get a guy like him going, then you got, they can beat anybody because we know they're going to keep themselves in it on the defensive end of the floor.
No question.
I got one more name I just want to throw out there. The big homie, Robbie Avila.
He said the big homie.
Indiana State. Friend of the show.
Stop.
Come on.
Stop it.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Larry Nerd. Come on, put some respect
Stop
on
it.
Big Rob's name.
Yeah.
Put the respect on my guy's name. He got the NIL deal with the rec specs. I got to give him some respect. I got to give him some love. Listen, when we come back, we're going to be joined by one of our Fielding the 68 bracketologists, Rocco Miller, to explain to us why Michigan State's going to be dancing, why Gonzaga is a 7th seed, and why we have no clue about what these rankings are going to be and what these seedings are going to be. That's next. Big news, guys. I am thrilled to announce that we have partnered with Autograph, a company founded by the GOAT himself, Tom Brady. The Autograph fandom app gives you access to the best college hoops content, fan contests, and exclusive rewards like discounted tickets, all for doing the things that diehard fans like you already do, following your favorite team in the news and listening to podcasts just like this one. When Tom, and yes, I am calling him Tom, we're on a first name basis these days, co-founded Autograph, he had one mission in mind: change the fan experience for the better. It works like this. You get all of your college hoops content you want in one place. You get articles from your favorite writers, pods from your favorite hosts, contests from your favorite creators, all on the feeds and the sites that you already enjoy. But instead of having to go to all these different places, it all comes to you in one spot, the Autograph fandom app. But here's the best part: the more content that you consume, the higher you rank in the app. As you consider the level up in status on the app, you can unlock unique rewards curated exclusively for you. So download the free Autograph app in the App Store and use the referral code F68, that's F68, or tap in at the link in the description below or in the podcast app of your choosing to start earning points for doing something as normal as listening to this very podcast. It really is that simple. Welcome back to the Thursday evening edition of the Field of 68 After Dark. Rob Dauster, Matt McCall, Randolph Childress, and we are joined live by one of our bracketologists over on the Fielding the 68 show, Rocco Miller, who is, Rocco, where the hell are you right now? What is happening here? My favorite thing about bringing you on for these spots is that we never know where you're going to be. You're just going to kind of show up somewhere. Tell the people where you are right now, because it's one of the more random places I think you've ever shown up.
Absolutely. Pullman, Washington, fellas. Washington State had a historic year. I'm looking at a banner right up here that shows all their NCAA tournaments since 1941, and there's only 6 listed. This is going to be the 7th year. So, I'm all about telling stories that need to be told. And being a guy from the Northwest originally, I had to get here before the year ended. It made all the sense in the world to do the rivalry game, and they're actually really sad right now because Washington just gave them a home loss, which will affect their bracketology forecast on Friday. But, I'm up here enjoying it. Not an easy place to get to, Rob. You know that.
Mm-hmm. Talk to us a little bit about Washington State real quick. Where are they going to end up being seated? How bad is this going to end up being? And is it going to end up being a 2-bid Pac-12?
Yeah, so for Washington State, they were fighting for that last spot or 2 on the 5-seed line at the start of the week. The way things shook out, South Carolina had lost, BYU had lost. So all they need to do is hold serve today. They would have felt really good about the 5 seed. And the reason why that's really important for them is Spokane is one of the locations for the first and second round, right up the road, an hour and a half. But no other school besides Gonzaga is nearby as a destination. So that's something they desperately want. This loss tonight might mean there's a limited chance to maybe no chance they'll end up there now. I think this drops them to probably at least a 6 seed. Again, Washington's 71 in the net. It's not a terrible loss, probably bottom half of quad 2. But at the end of the day, the teams that are going to be the top 20 teams, which are the top 5 seeds, you have to keep winning at a high level, and this will certainly hurt. And then in terms of the Pac-12, Rob, I would say, going into Las Vegas, we're probably looking at a 2-bid league. But if any of the other 10 schools win that tournament, then we have a 3-bid league. And I think coming into the week, I had Utah as my last team in. But it's so easy right now to put them in, put them out. And I'm kind of waiting to see what they do down in Oregon. They're playing at Oregon State as we speak. They have to play at Oregon this weekend. If they sweep this week, I think they're a little bit more solid. But there's no such thing as solid when you're that far onto the bubble. And Colorado got a nice win tonight at Oregon themselves. But again, their win of the year was tonight on the road, and then they beat Washington State at home. Besides that, they don't have a lot of meat on the bone despite having a great set of metrics, Ken Palm, things like that. We know they're great. We know they've been injured all year. They're an interesting case study. They're getting closer, but it's not something you can really feel confident about.
Who's the team in that league you feel as though has to make a run in the Pac-12 to cement their place in the tournament?
It's certainly those two, RC, Utah and Colorado. I think Oregon's loss tonight means they have to win the whole Pac-12 tournament. They really need a home sweep. Taking a home loss when it comes to bracket forecasting is a huge it's a huge dent in your path, especially when you're trying to fight your way in. And all three of those teams were trying to fight their way in. So as it stands today, it's really down to Utah and Colorado from the at-large side of things. Washington State and Arizona are, of course, securely in. And that's what it comes down to. And then who out of the other 8? Maybe it's a LA school. Both USC, I know UCLA is playing bad tonight, played a little bit bad last week. But, with Mick Cronin, you never know if they get hot in a weekend, anything can happen. USC is starting to look really tough lately. We'll see if they can make a run. There's some interesting stories. Cal's going to play hard. This Washington team has nothing to lose. So we'll see if a third team can emerge. But that's what the overall picture looks like.
Rocco, shifting gears a little bit to the Mountain West. A lot of hype, a lot of talk, rightfully so. It's been one of the better leagues in the country. Who do you think, how many teams from the Mountain West, in your opinion, get into the NCAA tournament?
Hey, what's up, Matt? Good to be on with you. I would say at least 5, which is music to the Mountain West commissioners' ears. I know that. But the dream here is to get all 6 of them in. Right now, New Mexico is teetering. I had them as my first team out this morning. And again, for them, they play at Utah State Saturday, ultimate showdown game. New Mexico, I think they need that win because right now in their 6 biggest road games, they're 1-5. The only win they got out of the whole group of big road wins was the one at Nevada. They lost to everybody else. And the other problem for New Mexico has been their athletic director needs a bunch of non-conference home games, so they didn't build as good of a resume in non-conference. They got sent to an event in Vegas where they went 3-0, but then the best team they played in that was Toledo. Not exactly an NCAA at-large level team. And I thought that was a little unfortunate because we love this New Mexico team. They're so fun to watch. They're deep. They're talented. They have pros. But right now they just don't have a resume to feel secure about. Again, I think a win in Logan this Saturday goes a long ways to getting them in. I think if they lose, that's their last chance to play a road game. In terms of the rest of the 5, Colorado State continues to slip. They might end up being the 6 or 7 seed in the Mountain West tournament, but they did get that Creighton win non-league. They had a really solid non-league overall. I think Colorado State's got just enough mustard to hang on down the stretch, but they're kind of playing with fire here the last couple of weeks.
Rocco, let's head to the Big East. I want to talk about the bubble in the Big East. St. John's, Seton Hall, Villanova, I think, has kind of gotten themselves to the point where they're probably going to end up on the right side as long as they don't do anything dumb in the Big East tournament. But there's what is it, 4 teams from the Big East on the bubble right now. Providence is just out according to the field of 68, fielding the 68 bracket. St. John's and Seton Hall are in playing games, and Villanova is a 10 seed. Talk to me about this Big East bubble situation.
It's crazy. I agree with you on Seton Hall. So Seton Hall ends with DePaul. No disaster there. I think they're going to find a way in. They've done enough. They have good wins. We've talked about them all year. I think one of the big ones is Villanova. So Villanova's now taken on 13 losses overall. Of course, if they win on Saturday, that would give them a sweep over Creighton. They already beat North Carolina this year. They already beat Texas Tech this year. They definitely have the biggest set of wins to just make the committee think twice about leaving them out. But at the end of the day, they've lost to anywhere between 6 and 8 non-tournament teams this year, which is also a very bad mark compared to the rest of the bubble. So the committee could go a lot of ways with Villanova. I think a win at Creighton is probably mandatory. In fact, it absolutely is, because you can't get to 15 losses, assuming they'll lose in the Big East tournament, right? For Providence, I still have them out, but they end with UConn. So a Providence win over UConn, again, that could be threading the needle. So you can see if Villanova and Providence can win those 2 massive home games this weekend, that might be the trick for the conference as a whole to get those 2 right back into the right side of the bubble. And then in terms of St. John's, they have nothing left really. They're just finishing with Georgetown. So for St. John's, it's really a tough position to be in. They're hoping for help from Villanova because they swept Villanova. So if you tell everybody Villanova's a tournament team, St. John's can raise their hand and say, hey, we swept that team. If Utah plays their way in, St. John's can say, hey, we beat that team. But right now, their only other tournament level wins were at home. They had 9 tournament level losses. So again, that's a pretty ugly winning percentage when they're playing tournament level competition. St. John's is just in wait and see mode. But I think if enough teams lose and choke, like we saw a number of teams do throughout this week, then you're looking at a St. John's team that's saying, listen, we're still here. We didn't do anything wrong. We're still available to be picked. And it'll be very fascinating to see how it plays out with Rick Pitino's team.
Hey, Rocco, I don't want to ask no questions about no Rick Pitino and no St. John getting in. I got to ask you about the Deeks, man. What's going on? Can my Deeks get in? Like, what do my Deeks got to do to get in this thing? Is it over with? They got to be Clemson. They got to win the whole ACC tournament. Like, what do my Deeks got to do to get in?
I'm so sorry, RC. I know you're. I can't be the. Don't shoot the messenger. I love you, man. But yeah, the bottom line is, my job is not to give you opinions. My job is to give you what I think the committee is going to do.
Not giving me hope. Go ahead, finish it off.
No, it's all good. The bottom line is this: they had 9 road games against teams in the top 2 quadrants. They went 1-8 with the only win at Boston College. They had 13 games away from home as a total for the year, and they won 3 total games away from home. Those opponents were Boston College, Georgia Tech, and Towson in Charleston Classic. So that 3-10 record, that 1-9 record, those are 2 pretty important categories on the bubble. It just looks pretty far out of balance. They needed a bigger road win. Obviously, a great home team, and I think that home loss the other night to Georgia Tech, was probably the dagger. And Matt, I think you were the one saying they need to win the ACC tournament. I would agree with Matt.
Well, quickly, because does Pitt have a chance if they win in the tournament? Because they got good wins. Does Pittsburgh have a chance if they win a couple of games or no?
I'm perplexed by Pittsburgh because the problem with them is their non-conference strength of schedule is 344. Historically, that's a de facto you're done. But they have those great wins, and I think if they win a little bit more and into the next week, I'm going to keep looking at Pittsburgh. I don't want to write them off yet.
All right, Rocco, listen, we appreciate the time, man. We got about 45 seconds left here. So I'm just going to grab the mic. I'm going to send out one toast tonight. I want to send it out to the legend, Dick Vitale. I want to raise a drink to him. He has come back from cancer. He is going to be able to broadcast games again. I don't know if he's going to do anything here. I'm kind of secretly hoping that he'll just show up out of nowhere for the Duke, North Carolina game on Saturday night. I know that he can kind of be a polarizing figure, but that man is a legend in the game. He's a great ambassador for the sport of college basketball, and he loves college hoops like nobody else. It's great to have you back, Dick. Can't wait to hear you calling games again. Listen, this has been the Field of 68 After Dark. Head over to the Stadium app. We're going to be hanging out there for about another 32 minutes or so answering your questions. Rocco's not going to be here. He's got to go party in Pullman. We'll see you guys on Stadium.